Inspira Tales. The house smelled of dust and wood shavings, just as it always had. But now it was quieter, too quiet. The tools lay untouched, the workbench frozen in time. Aarav sat on the porch, turning the unfinished wooden raven in his hands, which was his father's last piece. Its wings were missing, just like the time they had lost together. His father had always wanted to teach him to carve. He believed Aarav had the talent for it, that it was in his blood. But Aarav had never tried, not because he wasn't interested, but because he never dared. His father was the greatest artist he had ever known, his hands shaping wood into life with effortless grace. Aarav feared that no matter how hard he tried, he would never be able to match him. So he chose not to try at all. He had taken a different path, one that led him farther and farther away. Now all that remained was this half-shaped raven, a symbol of what could have been. As the sky darkened, a movement caught his eye. A raven, large and imposing, flew in the fading light and landed on the edge of the porch fence. Aarav held his breath. It was unlike any he had seen before, strong, silent, almost ethereal in the dim glow. It watched him with knowing eyes, as if it had come for something. Then, after a moment, it took flight again, disappearing into the night. The next morning, Aarav stepped into his father's atelier for the first time in years. Dust covered everything, but the tools remained exactly as he remembered them. Chisels, carving knives, wooden figures in different stages of completion. This was his father's world, a world he had never entered. That evening, the raven returned, landing on the same spot. Aarav watched it, feeling something stir deep within him. The next day, it came again, and the next, always watching. On the fourth day, Aarav sat at the workbench, the unfinished raven before him, his father's tools in his hands. The real raven arrived as it always did, but this time it stayed longer, staring at him as if waiting. Aarav exhaled and picked up the carving knife. Slowly, hesitantly, he began shaping the missing wings, his hands guided by instinct, by memory, by something deeper. And with each cut, each careful stroke, he realized something. His father's skill wasn't just in his hands, it was in his heart, his memory, his very being. The raven watched, unmoving. Only when the first rough outlines of the wings took shape did it finally take flight, disappearing into the sky. But the next day it returned, and Aarav carved again. Days passed and the sculpture neared completion. Aarav had never carved before, yet with every stroke of the blade he felt his father's presence, his patience, his precision. He was not just carving wood, he was carving his father's soul back into existence. Then, one evening, as the final details took shape, the raven did not return. The porch was empty, the fence bare. But Aarav wasn't disappointed. He held the finished sculpture in his hands. It was almost perfect, strong, proud, alive. He ran his fingers over the smooth wooden feathers and smiled. He had lost his father, yet in the most unexpected way he had found him again. Aarav never saw the raven land on the porch again. But he stayed in the house, taking up his father's craft as his own. In time, the porch filled with wooden ravens, each one more lifelike than the last. And sometimes, in the hush of twilight, he would feel the wind of wings above him. He would look up and see, high in the treetops, a lone raven watching him. For a moment it would linger, then fly away, disappearing into the sky. Aarav never called out to it. He only smiled. He now understood. Nothing is ever lost, only transformed. Some souls never truly leave. They just learn to fly. Loss is not an end, but a transformation. What we believe has vanished often returns in the most unexpected forms. The bonds we share never fade. They rest quietly within us, waiting for the moment to rise and bloom again. Life moves in quiet, mysterious ways, leading us back to our dreams we've set aside, reminding us that what we seek has always been within our hearts. An inspiration for the soul,